We are exactly a minute past the hour, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick things off. Welcome for all of you joining us today, and of course, for all of you who might be joining us after the fact, because of course, this will be a recorded session. Today, we're going to talk about the future of voice with outbound voice AI, agents, and multimodal AI. And the goal here, of course, is how do we move from reactive support to proactive resolution? Before we kickstart things, a couple quick housekeeping items. Please bear in mind that some of what we might cover could contain forward-looking statements. Simply ask that you take that in consideration, as you witness today's event and determine how some of the topics that we cover today could be relevant to you and your organization. As well, just want to add, if you have any questions throughout today's session, feel free to add them into the chat, and myself, and of course my counterpart here, Anshuman, we'll do our best to address them throughout the course of today's webinar. By virtue of introduction, for those of you who don't know me or haven't attended one of these events before, my name is Guillaume, G for short. I run the ServiceNow practice here at 3C Logic, and I'm joined by my colleague here, Anshuman, who is the Chief Technology Officer here at 3C Logic as well. Anshuman, great to have you.
Thank you, G. Morning, everyone. Great to have you joining us for the webinar.
Yeah, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. All right, well, obviously, we want to get into the meat of today's discussion. Our goal is to take about 30 minutes or so. We always try to keep these things on the shorter end of the hour, but it always helps to sort of paint the picture of what it is that we're talking about. And what we always try and do is dive first into what's the challenge, what's the state of the market, and then relate that to some of the items that we're going to cover today. And with that, Anshuman, I think you were going to kick it off to sort of set the tone for today's topic of discussion.
Yeah, so let's start with the problem we are trying to address. And so typically, as users, customers, when we reach out for any sort of support from any enterprise, your internet company or something else, uh, there has been a great push for a digital first experience. That means you are first pushed either to the website or some sort of knowledge article or maybe even a chat bot and things like that, and which has worked maybe well enough in the past. Most of this push comes because the enterprise want to reduce costs and improve the scale of the support. So there is
Right.
some logic to that. Uh, but with in the last few years with generative AI and especially voice AI, these now feel very ancient ways of doing things. Uh, they are still important, but with uh, uh, so let me correct myself a little bit. At the end of the day, as customers, we are only interested in resolutions. Now, whether that resolution comes from a website or a voice AI, I'm only interested in resolutions. But what voice AI adds here is that you can target increasingly complex and problems, and so that basically helps because with generative AI and everybody's using it, the expectations are just rising. The customers expect a lot more. So voice AI is now essential for your customer support as an organization. Uh, Anything you want to add to that, G?
Well, I think obviously what you're getting at is people don't address or don't engage with an organization determining upfront which is going to be the most appropriate channel relative to their need. What they're most interested in is ultimately, I have a problem and I want you to resolve it.
That's
And
correct.
traditional channels, right? In the past, if the push was to go to digital, and again, the push towards digital channels could have been really, driven by cost mitigation efforts on behalf of the organization providing the service, under the pretense that it'll be a faster form of service for the recipient, for the customer. But that's evolved, and AI is changing the landscape under which service is being extended out to customers. And if we talk about the landscape, let's be honest, the state of customer support, I would argue, is a bit disjointed. And if we look at just some of these key data points, one, the majority, arguably based on today's data point, all customers hate friction, right? So when we talk about customers are focused on resolutions, not necessarily, uh, you know, uh, dictating the channels that they pick based on the type of issue that they have. The reality is they want the most frictionless experience possible. But to your point, Anshuman, the types of requests that customers have are getting increasingly more complex, right? And digital channels may not always be the most optimal form of engagement to solve for those types of inquiries. When you look at the success of self-service, through traditional means of which you've alluded, knowledge portal, chatbots, things of that nature, despite significant investment, only about 14% of individuals have actually been successful in resolving their own needs. Now, what does that drive? That drives not just a frustrated customer, but an increase in call volume, right? And a multi-touch point environment. And at the same time, if you look at the success of digital transformation, because the types of requests are getting more complex, you could argue that there's a bit of a digital bottleneck that started to occur in recent years, whereby it's really a lot easier to just have a conversation than it is to try and type all the different contexts that might be necessary for someone, for an organization to actually resolve the issue. And that can drive, or has been driving an elevated volume in terms of voice heavy ticket traffic. And so that's another key point to take into consideration. And last but not least, you've got this sort of services squeeze. A lot of organizations, a lot of CIOs right now are actually trying to, or under massive pressure, to find savings to fund some of the AI projects that organizations are all eager to adopt. And so very often the IT service desk or your customer support group, that is one of the first places that they will look to reduce headcount. And if you're reducing headcount, then you have to somehow still be able to absorb the call volume and requests that are coming in. And of course, that's part of what we're going to talk about today, which is how can outbound voice AI agents, how can multimodal voice AI potentially be part of that solution? Because ultimately, we are moving into an area where it's really becoming a voice AI first world. So if digital transformation was really where everything was headed a couple of years ago, because of the evolution of AI, voice is becoming increasingly more capable of handling not just simple, but nuanced, more complex use cases. And we're going to showcase today just in what form. But the goal with voice AI is ideally to provide proactive resolution, right? So transform, for example, passive dead end alerts and notifications into opportunities for proactive service. How can you deliver frictionless experiences? Just like this conversation here today, it's a lot easier to exchange information verbally than it is over digital means, although digital absolutely has its role, and we're going to showcase that when we cover multimodal today. And then the goal, of course, is to accelerate the rate at which you can deliver solutions to customers when they're calling you. The faster you can solve their solution, the less likely they're going to call back. And, of course, that can drive customer loyalty. And then how can you drive personalized experiences? Voice AI in a vacuum is not going to be a silver bullet, right? What we're going to cover today is how can voice AI together with a system of record like that of ServiceNow, leverage context and data that is traditionally hosted in your CRM or system of record to together with voice AI deliver personalized experiences that will meet a customer's expectations. Because remember, the customers that you now serve, they know how to use ChatGPT. And so they're expecting ChatGPT, Anthropic type experiences from the organizations with whom they do business with. Anshuman, anything to add?
Yeah, just one thing that, yeah, well, like you said, like digital is absolutely still very important. But there's also the case that whenever you want, if your request has any sense of urgency, the first thing you typically look for is, okay, where's the phone number?
Mhm.
Right. So which makes voice very, very relevant. And with voice AI, that relevance is only increasing.
Correct. Correct. Voice has never stopped being dominant. But now, with AI, it has the opportunity to live up to the expectations that we've all had as consumers for years. So with
Right.
that, we have two different sort of voice AI topics that we're trying to hit on today, Anshuman, right? One, which is outbound voice AI agents, and then we'll follow up with that with multimodal voice AI as well. So let's go ahead and tackle it in that order. But first, I don't want to take for granted that our audience knows what outbound voice AI agents are. Do you want to kick that off? What's an outbound voice AI agent in your own words?
All right. So let's start with, okay, what's a voice AI agent? And I'm pretty sure everybody here is aware about it, so I'll just keep it brief. Voice AI agent is basically a autonomous software powered by generative AI. It uses generative AI for your speech to text, text to speech, and generating the solutions for the queries. That's in general a voice AI agent. Now, outbound voice AI agent is actually not very different from an inbound voice AI agent because at the core they are both voice AI agents. But while your inbound voice AI agent handles your inbound calls, your outbound voice AI agent is now capable of handling your outbound calls. Why is it important? Well, let's talk about a scenario. I'll take a use case. For example, you have an appointment, some sort of appointment, and close to the appointment or a few whatever, as the case might be, you get a text notification, or your appointment has been canceled, please call us to rebook your appointment, or your flight has been canceled, please call us to rebook your flight. And you look at the text, great, so that's like a dead end. Now I have to react to that. The enterprise is like, oh, I sent an SMS or a text and you didn't call back, so there was nothing I could do. That's not a great experience. Instead of that, how do we make it proactive? Now, instead of just pure text, the same event can trigger an outbound call to the customer. The customer answers. The voice AI agent gets the call. And instead of just a blind, oh, your appointment has been canceled, it could be, okay, I am calling on behalf of so and so. I'm sorry, your appointment had to be canceled because of so and so reasons. Would you like to rebook it immediately? And I say, yes, I would want to rebook. And I go through the scenario. And instead of something being very reactive where I need to call back and find a way to get rebook, it happens on the call right there and then. That is a far better experience than a reactive dead end sort of getting a text or an email. This is
Right. So, excuse me.
yeah,
So what you're alluding to is basically the ability to not just provide a notification, but at the point of engagement, actually then also provide a solution, right? So
right.
you're putting the onus on the recipient. Hey, I've canceled something, or here's some bad news. Now do something in reaction to it. It's, I have some news. Let me work with you to actually find a solution, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the proactive part and the reactive part, which is the topic of our seminar, webinar.
Okay. So for the sake of our audience, let's actually take a look at how one might be built, and then we'll actually experience one that we've gone ahead and prepared for today's session. So if I switch screens here, what we have here on screen is the 3C Logic Voice AI Hub. For those of you who are not familiar with 3C Logic Voice AI Hub, this is actually where you can build and architect different agents. Now, of course, today we're going to focus on an outbound agent, but to Anshuman's point, it could also handle inbound calls. The way in which agents are built is you provide it a description. What is its job? What is its function? What are the things that it should do? You can give it guardrails. Here are things that you should always perform. Here's things that you should never attempt to do. And then on that basis, you can then give it a persona. And this is actually the agent that we're going to experience here in just a short second. So we have Hope. So these refer to the different languages that the agent is capable of supporting. Obviously, for today's purposes, we're going to keep it to English. But you can give the agent a personality. How verbose do you want them to be? Do you want them to have a sense of humor? How concise versus detail oriented? What level of empathy should they have in the course of the discussion? And what's the level of engagement? Are they relatively short with their responses, or do they attempt to create an elevated level of engagement with the customer? So basically, you can align and create an agent that fits your brand and persona. And then the agent, of course, has to have functionalities, has to have skills, what we call abilities. And you can see there's a whole series of different abilities that you can create. These are a mix of in-house capabilities within 3C Logic's knowledge store. If you want the agent to have access to a database of information that they refer to, it could be API calls to launch or fetch information from a system of record. For today's purposes, the individual or the agent is going to be working out of ServiceNow. So they have the ability to fetch a request, update a request, look up a person's information based on the phone number, and things of that nature. So an ability quite literally gives them options to support different action items or fetch information, potentially update that information, depending on the functionality or the role that they have. And of course, you can imagine an agent has the ability to then do one of many things, which is to delegate to a fellow agent or to transfer to a live individual if for some reason the call requires the intervention of a live person, or ideally the conclusion of the call is the task has been complete and everyone's happy and can go about their business. So that is sort of how an outbound agent is architected in the simplest form. If I go ahead and showcase one to you, let me set sort of the pretense of the call. You've got John here who's going to call it, who's going to receive a call in reaction to an order that cannot be fulfilled because what he requested is, well, on back order. And so what we have here, and you'll see, is in service now. We're going to change the status, and that is going to trigger an experience, and you will for yourself experience exactly what that conversation was between John and the outbound voice AI agent. So without further ado, let me go ahead and play that video for you. To demonstrate the power of outbound voice AI agents, we have a very simple use case here today. We have John Smith, who is having an issue with his current laptop acting a bit slow. And so he's gone ahead and requested a replacement for that laptop. Unfortunately, it's been determined that the current laptop that he requested is on back order. So that note has been entered into the requested item here, and we're going to change the status of this request from open to in progress. And when we click update here, what this will automatically launch is, or trigger, is a voice AI agent reaching out to John to notify them of the fact that the current laptop they selected is not available, but to work with them proactively in seeking an alternative that would be sufficient or satisfactory to John's needs. So let's go ahead and click update and experience that for ourselves.
Hello, this is Nicole. I'm calling about your laptop order. Am I speaking with John Smith?
Yes.
John, I'm reaching out because the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 laptop you ordered is currently out of stock due to supply constraints. I can help you review other approved options that are available now so we can keep your order moving. Would you like me to go over some alternatives?
Yes, that'd be helpful.
Great. Based on your role, I can suggest a few alternatives that balance performance, portability, and memory. Do you prefer something more powerful for heavy tasks or a lighter model for easy mobility?
Yeah, something more powerful would be great because the current laptop I have is just too slow.
Thanks for letting me know. For a more powerful option, we have the Dell Latitude 7420 and the HP EliteBook 850G8 available. Both offer strong performance and good memory capacity. Would you like me to share the main differences between these two?
No, I have a preference for Dells anyways. Can we just move forward with the Dell?
I'm checking the most recent details for your current laptop request. Please hold on for a moment. John, I have updated your request to proceed with the Dell Latitude 7420 as your alternative laptop choice. Is there anything else you would like to ask or need help with today?
No, that should cover it.
Thanks for your time, John. Have a great day.
So a very simple use case that showcases an opportunity here to not just notify John that, hey, you know what, your laptop is on back order, but instead of saying, now go ahead and do something, call us back or send us an email or et cetera, an opportunity to say, look, I have options. Obviously, those options are being pulled from a list of catalog items in ServiceNow, and then guiding him through what might be the most appropriate alternative to what he had, at the time ordered. Very conversational, relatively simple use case, and yet you can most likely see how perhaps traditional IVR or some of the more legacy type approaches in the past would have been insufficient. So again, here's an example of an outbound voice AI agent. Instead of just providing a dead end notification is providing you a notification, but then also attempting to resolve the item. And of course, Anshuman, we could transfer the call to an individual if John needed that requirement. But the goal, of course, is to address the issue without that escalation being required. Now, I'll take a pause there, of course, to our audience. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be happy to address them. But another item that we want to look at is, okay, well, now we've shown outbound voice AI agents, right, Anshuman? But we've also talked about multimodal AI. But multimodal, it's had a couple different definitions depending on, who you speak to. Walk us through what is multimodal, and then perhaps we can take a look at what was the evolution that's led to multimodal and why you feel it's so relevant and powerful in today's age.
Right. So what is multimodal? And maybe I need to start a little further back is our real life conversations, whether it's with family, friends, colleagues, we just have a conversation. We never think about channels as such in the sense, oh, did I text? I texted my, wife something, and if I call her, will she be aware of the context of what I texted her and things like that? It's like in real life, when you have a conversation, you don't think of those things. So just like this webinar right now, you can hear us, you can see us, and you also have this presentation. It's all three working together in sync to basically enhance the experience of a conversation. Now, that's what we mean by multimodal. Before we go to what we are trying to achieve with multimodal, let's briefly go back and see how we got here, what the journey has been so far on how we have tried to improve the customer experience. So long time back, it was predominantly voice, and then we moved to an era where there was email and text and phone calls, and the customer had a choice of channel they wanted to use to reach out to support. But the context was very highly siloed. You wrote a long email, and if you had to call back or something like that, the agent had to it was almost guaranteed that you have to start from scratch again. So we thought, okay, let's try to make it better, and the concept of omni-channel came into picture. The goal was that the context is highly integrated in the sense if I started on an email and then I had to switch to a phone call, if I call and is answered by an agent, they are aware of what my problem is. That was the promise. I'm not sure how much of it delivered in in reality. But moving on, what we talked about multimodal here. Now with multimodal, what we are trying is digital channels. They are required because they are precise. If I send some information there, it's very precise. It's not subject to, in most cases, it's not subject to interpretation or the LLM hallucinating or misunderstanding and things like that. Whereas voice provides a very flexible, natural conversation. With multimodal, we are trying to bring together the digital precision of the digital channels, let's say messaging, with the flexibility of voice. We'll go through we'll look at a demo very soon. But before that, G, do you want to expand on anything?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is as you look at the evolution of AI together, its impact on voice, and so together voice AI. One of the things that multimodal brings to the equation is the opportunity for a voice AI agent to have access to what we take for granted as individuals, right? So as you mentioned, it not just has the ability to listen and speak, but it now has the ability to see. And there are use cases, which we're going to get into actually here in just a second, where it's a lot easier to interpret a response or to understand my options as a caller if I'm provided a visual reference as opposed to an audio list of options, right? So again, an example of the benefit and power of multimodal, this presentation is certainly a lot easier with what we have on screen complemented by what we have to say, as opposed to me just speaking to you over the phone and trying to elicit the same type or transfer the same amount of information, right? So easiest way to do that is to go through a demonstration to really highlight to our audience what's the opportunity for multimodal and what is the benefit that it can bring in a voice-enabled experience. Now, to do that, we're going to use John again. Order is delayed. And we're going to look at how multimodal has the ability to really facilitate his issue and how to resolve that issue. Now, when John calls in, and I'm just going to go through the workflow in this case because it'll be a lot easier to then understand what to focus on in the course of the video we recorded for you. When John calls in, he's going to be transferred to a voice agent, and that agent is going to identify his request, his order in ServiceNow. And we're going to use WhatsApp as the messaging channel. And what you'll see is in a multimodal experience, the WhatsApp channel, the messaging channel, and voice are actually going to be working simultaneously and in sync. And the voice AI agent has the ability to look at it as a single thread. So whatever is shared over messaging or whatever is spoken is equally accessible to the agent to leverage as part of its ability to help progress the conversation in the request. Now, what's interesting is there are things that are much easier to interpret when given as opposed to spoken. So, for example, changing an email address. I know with a name like mine, or for that matter, a name like yours, Anshuman, sometimes it'd be a lot easier for me to just type the email, right, to an individual
Always.
as opposed to A for Apple, S for Sam, and so on and so forth, right? Not to mention that once you're done, they then want to verify that they got it right. It'd be a lot easier if I could just type it. So you're going to see how, in that example, the merging of voice and digital can be immediately useful, and it's more efficient for both parties. You're going to get the answer to the question faster. You're going to resolve the situation sooner. And so it's beneficial for the organization providing the service, as well as for the customer that is just trying to get their issue resolved. Same with when you need to select from a list of options. You had mentioned on Anshuman, what happens if your flight gets canceled? If you're giving me a set of options for my rebooking, if it's 5 different flights available to me, by the time you're giving me my third option to pick from, I've already confused the first two, right? So sometimes a visual list is way more effective in terms of being able to provide that to an individual than to, waste time trying to go back through all the options until we're in sync. At the same time, we're going to see a very cool use case where maybe you need to share your location, or, it's not in this presentation, but maybe there's a need to share a picture. I'm in a car accident. Let me share a picture. In this case, we're going to show how John can very quickly share his location to help facilitate the shipping process and order. And then how do you get a summary of what it is that you just did on the call to make sure that all that can be validated before the call is ultimately concluded? So all this really for our audience, these are all the things that occur here in this quick demonstration. Wanted to highlight them ahead of time so you can appreciate everything that's actually happening in the background and how convenient it is for both parties. Okay, so with that, let me actually kick off that call or that video and enjoy.
Hi, thanks for calling Mobile Direct. I'm Alex. I recognize your phone number. Are you calling about your recent order?
Yeah, I never got a confirmation for it.
It looks like your email address is missing in the order. Can you confirm the mobile number I can use to send you a WhatsApp request where you can type it in?
Yeah, you can use 443-875-7633.
Just to confirm, the mobile number you provided is 443-875-7633, correct?
Yep, that's it.
I'm sending a WhatsApp message now to request your email address for updating your order. Please tell me the email address you want to add to your order when you are ready. I'm updating your contact email address now to ensure you receive your order confirmation. I checked on your order and I have an update. Unfortunately, the white model you ordered is currently out of stock and on back order. Are you okay to wait for a couple of weeks until we get a refreshed inventory?
No, my current phone is really not working, and I need a new phone for this upcoming conference I'm going to be at.
I'm retrieving the list of available items in the catalog for you now. I'm sending you a WhatsApp message with the available iPhone models to choose from. I'll wait for your choice of model from the options sent to your WhatsApp. Please tell me which one you'd like.
Yeah, I need the larger storage capacity, so if we go with the first one, that'd be great.
I'll swap to the iPhone 16 in black with 8 megabytes RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. Shall I go ahead?
Yes, please.
I'm updating your order with the iPhone 16 in black, featuring 8 megabytes RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. The delivery address I have on file is 1234 Biker Lane, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403 USA. Is this the correct address for your shipment?
No, if I could have it delivered to the hotel for the conference I'll be staying at, that'd be better.
Would you prefer to type the new address in WhatsApp, or should I request your location directly from WhatsApp?
I don't know the address. If you can send me a location request, that'd be great.
I'm sending a location request to your WhatsApp now so you can easily share the address. I've sent a location request to your WhatsApp. Please share your location there when you are ready. I'm updating your delivery address to the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas now. I'm sending you a summary of your updated order to your WhatsApp now. You can review the changes made today in WhatsApp. Is all of this correct?
Yeah, it looks good.
Great. You should expect your shipment to arrive at the updated address within 1 to 2 days. Please be aware that signature will be required on receipt. Enjoy your trip and your new phone. Have a great day.
Thanks. So a pretty little powerful use case here. Of course, we record these ahead of time because audio can get quite messy on a live session as well. But you can see how the agent was able to perform a number of different functions, um, which, of course, uh, were a lot easier to do by using the digital channel. In this case, we use WhatsApp messaging. SMS will be available as well when this rolls out later this year. But the ability to use, to your point on Shaman, the digital precision of messaging, like typing in my email address or sharing my location or looking at a list of options that obviously I'm going to be able to interpret much faster if I get to see the list of options as opposed to having it dictated to me. But also the benefit of it being a, voice-based conversation that is obviously managed by the voice AI agent that has access to both the digital and audio stream. So very, very powerful. And of course, the benefit to an organization is the ability to resolve an individual's needs in a more effective way, right? There's no, can you confirm that for me? Let me double check I've got the email correct and so forth. So it's a faster call. The experience is obviously frictionless. We spoke to earlier about how individuals hate friction. Friction leads to, issues with retention, customer loyalty, and so forth. And at the same time, it was personalized, right? We sort of skirted over the fact that what makes this entire experience that much more powerful is the fact that it is integrated with ServiceNow and using ServiceNow information to create a personalized experience, but also allow it to trigger or update the necessary items in ServiceNow to be able to progress an item or a workflow through so that there is no time lost within the process. And all of this was done in a agentless, as in no human intervention type of experience. Anshuman, anything to add? Or what's your take as we conclude here?
Oh, so going back to what we experience in real life. So this brings us at least one step closer to how we, if I'm standing at a desk somewhere asking for help versus if I'm on a phone call. This experience just elevates that. It is more natural. It is what we are used to every day. So why should it not be present for customer service as well? Yeah. So as the screen says, I mean, voice is not optional now. It's not a channel. It has to be part of it has to be part of your AI strategy. Without voice, yeah, it just voice just makes things easier. It's just part of natural conversation.
Yeah, and we're conversational beings. So as long as
Yeah.
customer support is designed to serve people, people given the opportunity would rather have a conversation. We do have a question here before we conclude with a couple takeaway items. And it speaks to specifically, I'll just paraphrase here is, what is the best practice or quote the gold standard in terms of the response time? And I think this question goes more towards latency. Anshul, I know you've got some thoughts about that. Obviously, there's a lot of things that can drive latency. So for our audience, when you're integrating with other systems of record, some of it can be dependent on how fast you get a response back from the system from which you are soliciting information from. They could be, reading back from a field. They could be querying an external knowledge base. Of course, within our voice AI agent, we have our own knowledge store as well. There are best practices in terms of how you should create KB articles, for example, to make it friendly for voice-based exchanges. But Anshuman, anything to really contribute to that question in terms of what's the gold standard or what are the best practices that people should anticipate and apply when addressing or looking to include voice AI in their strategy?
Yeah. So the obviously the most important piece here is, or one of the most important pieces in here is the LLM we use. Now, in production and even in this demo, we have been using, let's say, the OpenAI or Azure OpenAI 5.4 mini models. It is specifically mini because latency is very important for a voice call. If you are on a chat or a messaging channel, if it takes 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it doesn't really matter. But 4 seconds of silence on a call just starts to destroy the experience if it does not destroy the experience. So, which is why for voice is a different has to be a little different. It's the same for your knowledge articles. Knowledge articles on chat you could share long text like a page of text. It throw out in the message, and users can read it in their own page. It could have URLs and all of that. But on a voice call, it doesn't work now unless they will start to work when once you have multimodal voice AI, which we just presented. So those that's so essentially LLM is one of the primary reasons here is what we have to keep mind as to what we are using. Yeah, there are reasoning foundational frontier models out there, but if they take 15 seconds to respond, it's not going to work for your voice AI agent. The second thing here is obviously there are many tools and abilities which are invoked, and some APIs might return in sub-second, and while others may take 5 seconds. In those cases, you have to really manage the conversation. So, which is what you also experienced in the demo, that some parts were like sort of trying to manage the conversation because fetching data from an external system is not really within your control or our control. So the latency is not the only thing, but it does need to be managed. And those, I mean, it is part of how we build our voice AI agent. Uh, yeah, that's
Yeah, I think what you're referring to, which again may not have come across because again it's designed to be natural, is that there are opportunities to provide what you might call filler or conversational filler. Okay, let me go fetch that information. Just give me a minute, etc. You're setting expectations, and sometimes that can be to buy time while a response is still being produced by perhaps an external resource for which perhaps the API is a little bit slow to respond. So to your point, Anshuman, and to our audience, and to the question, which is a fantastic question, by the way, there are a number of different factors that need to be accounted for, different variables, and there are different methods by which you can actually reduce latency or manage the experience if the latency or the delay in the response is not in the control of the voice AI agent, and yet the voice AI agent is responsible for maintaining the conversation. And if you think about it, that's not unrealistic or any different than the types of experiences that we encounter when dealing with a human individual, right? So when you're on a call, someone says, all right, let me take a look. Hold on. Let me look at your record, right? And then they might put you on hold and so forth and actually go fetch that information. You can afford yourself that same luxury. But in a voice AI agent, there are certain components that have to be put into place to respond and anticipate those types of scenarios. That being said, the architecture does matter, proximity to the LLM model and so forth, without necessarily explaining exactly how we deploy and architect our voice AI agents, since they're proprietary, is also a factor that can affect positively or negatively, depending on the architecture, latency as well. So fantastic question. All right, so we had promised that we would stick to give or take within 30 minutes. We're a little bit past. So a couple key takeaways. First and foremost, we are of the opinion, and if you're on this call, perhaps you are as well, that voice AI is the new front door. Now, we're not here to say that voice as a channel has ever stopped being one of the most dominant knee-jerk channels that we all go to in the absence of being able to solve our own issues. But now with AI, it has a potential again to live up to the experiences and in addition, be able to solve for more of the common use cases, even more complex use cases than say your traditional password reset. That's always a favorite one, than was previously available to us. So again, to Anshuman's earlier point, voice is no longer a channel strategy. Voice AI is quite literally and should be part of your AI strategy moving forward. At the same time, one of the things that you can do, whether it's with your outbound voice AI agents, your inbound voice AI agents, merging them together with digital channels, messaging, as you saw here in a multimodal capacity, really affords the voice AI agent that additional insight and access that can drive more effective forms of experience and outcome. When you can take the benefits that messaging contributes and consolidate it with the benefits that a conversation enables, you actually have a very powerful voice AI agent that is going to be almost on par with what we as individuals, as human beings, take for granted when delivering service. And not last but not least, all of this really comes together and really becomes equally more powerful only when it's integrated together with your CRM, with your system of record. And today, of course, we highlighted ServiceNow as the example case, where it served not only as a source of information, but it was also what we then worked together to create and launch actions, whether it was to update an order, whether it was to help with the availability of alternative options, and so on and so forth. So merging voice together with your CRM and allowing them to really work in conjunction with each other is what's going to deliver transformative experiences that will be on par, or perhaps even exceed what we as consumers today, have yet to experience or hope to experience in the field. If anything that we've covered today is of interest and you'd like to explore more detail, how could you have a conversation? You can reach us very easily at info@3clogic.com. You can also reach us, and a member of our team would be more than happy to learn more about your specific circumstances and explore where some of what we covered today could be value adding to you.